Without question, the Crosstown Shootout has become one of the best college basketball rivalries. The game is Saturday at 2 o'clock. We have Andy Mack and Terry Nelson here on the Be Different podcast to talk about it.
I'm Andy Mack. I've been a Xavier zealot since 1983. Prior to that, in a previous life, I actually did UC games. It was pretty good, but the Xavier Blue attracted me. I named the game in 1985. It was McClendon against Larkin. It was just the Xavier UC game, but it got competitive because of Bob Stack. Crosstown Shootout seemed logical, so I went with it. Anyway, I'm looking forward to interacting with Terry and with Brad and bring on the Crosstown Shootout.
Hello, everybody. Terry Nelson, former UC Bearcat. Played on two of the coldest UC teams ever to cross this UC campus, and it was a lot of them. I'm 2-0 as a Bearcat, and I famously predicted we would blow them out, and we did. And we'll talk about that.
All right, everybody, it is time to get to business now and talk about the game. But before we do that, if you haven't already, please just do this. Follow the Be Different podcast on all social media. That means Twitter, that means Instagram, that means Facebook, as well as YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button right in the corner. The Be Different podcast will be giving you content weekly throughout the college basketball season, the NBA season, and beyond. We will be bringing you this new content every single week, so please support us as we move along. And now I'm going to enter in my special guests. I know they already introduced themselves to you, but Andy Mack, Terry Nelson are here to talk about the big game, the Crosstown Shootout. That is happening on Saturday, 2 o'clock. Let's talk about a little bit of recent history. Since 1970, UC and Xavier both have 24 wins. Recent history has been on Xavier's side. Xavier has won 8 of the last 11. Away from the Cintas Center, Xavier has split the last 10 games with UC. So with that, I will enter in Andy Mack and Terry Nelson. First question that we have to begin this debate, and that's what it is. We're not going to have a winner and a loser, although some people listening to this broadcast here may think there's a winner and a loser as we go on. But I want to talk about the coaches, the guys with the clipboards, the guys with the suits on the sidelines that will be developing the game plan for the Crosstown Shootout. Andy, I'm going to allow you to go first. Travis Steele, first-year head coach, his first time as the head man in a Xavier uniform. Make your case for Travis Steele and his staff above Mick Cronin and his staff.
Wait a minute. This is a debate?
This is absolutely a debate, Andy.
Like Lincoln Douglas, like Gore Vidal, and
yes.
That other guy? Okay.
I mean, if you want to bring these names into it, and go ahead, absolutely.
All right, bring it on. This is like a presidential debate, and we'll do it. Travis Steele is not a newbie to the Crosstown Shootout. He's been around for 10 of them. He's the lead scout for 7 or 8 under Chris Mack, and so I don't think Travis will be awed or freaked out by the nature of this game. And actually, he's delegated some authority in this game. Interestingly, he's built a lot of trust with his players and his staff up to this point, and Dante Jackson is the lead scout. He played in 4 of these games. He won 3 times. He had a great game here against UC in, I think, 2008. So Dante does the heavy lifting and the preparation. I'm sure that Travis will add his own touches. And it's a new coaching staff, but I've had a chance to interact with Jonas Hayes and Ben Johnson. They are head coaches in waiting. The team will be well prepared. There won't be any X's, or there won't be any T's not crossed or I's not dotted, but it's all about the players anyway. So the game plan will be there. This team will not be intimidated, and I'm confident the coaches will do their job well.
Okay, so Andy seems happy about Travis Steele and his staff. Terry, make your case for Mick Cronin and his team.
Well, this staff has been together other than, Davis is gone. Larry Davis is gone. But you're talking 7 years now with Darren Savino, big man coach Antoine Jackson now working with the guards, and Greg Yankowski, the new addition who moves up from video coordinator to fill that role for Larry Davis. Prepared staff. I fly with these guys. I'm always around them. They always have their laptops editing film wherever they go. I do scouting reports with them. One thing about a Coach Cronin coach team is that they're going to be prepared. And one of the things that he takes pride in is attention to detail. I mean, he has got this photographic memory that allows him to make and think of all these different names and places and situations. When you're a coach, you try to use something funny to break up the monotony in practice, and he'll start throw out old baseball references from 1980 and 1970, and guys are scratching their head because, first of all, they wasn't around. Second of all, they don't watch baseball. But the preparation that he has when he's telling these stories, and then you factor in the fact that last year there happened to be a little incident with an irritant on Xavier's.
Do we remember that?
Oh my goodness!
I remember now. It was J.P. McCura and
Yes.
Coach Cronin got into a little scuffle, I think.
Yeah, so best believe that when it comes to Crosstown Week, the preparation, the amount of Jack B. Nimble experience where he's lighting candles, lighting fire under his players is going to be amplified this week because of what happened last year, because of having a new arena, because of the expectation of trying to build something with this squad. The preparation that Coach Cronin will have with this squad and the fact that his guys are buying into it and believing it, and he's using multiple lineups to do it, I like the preparation coming from Coach Cronin.
Do we know which coach is taller? Is Travis taller than Mick? Do we know? Do we have their exact frame and size in front of us, Andy?
I didn't prepare for that.
All right. Well, I guess we'll move on.
A physical preparation comparison between the coaches is sort of irrelevant, seeing that they're not going to go one-on-one at any point, I don't think. Unless
I don't know. At the end of the game, you saw that last year.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think Travis has longer limbs. I think he has a wider reach and maybe a little better vertical than Mick. I'm not trying to disparage
knee surgery's done that. But.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll give Coach Steele wins in a one-on-one matchup, possibly. But both these teams last year, super talented, two of some of the great players, obviously. A lot of guys on the UC side playing professionally. Same on the Xavier side. A lot of question marks for both teams entering the season. UC had an early season loss to Ohio State. Since then, they have reeled off 8 straight. Xavier starts the season with 3 losses, but has played a very challenging schedule. How do you feel that these teams have been able to mature since taking those early season losses?
It's a reload, not a rebuild for Xavier. The core 4 guys that Travis Steele brings back are very good. The 2 juniors, Quentin Gooden and Tyreek Jones, the 2 sophomores, Paul Scruggs, and the other guy, who am I thinking of? Who am I missing? Najee Marshall, the best player, the best all-court player on the team. They're very good. Travis went out and plugged the holes with 3 graduate transfers, and I think those guys have a chance to factor into this Crosstown Shootout. A lot of times in the shootout, freshmen are total passengers, and new guys, JUCOs and transfers, sort of are in awe of this game, and they don't figure. For Xavier to win, in my opinion, Ryan Welch is going to have to hit some threes out of transition in the open floor. Kyle Castlin has to be the Swiss Army knife. He's going to have to help out. And Hankins, who is very athletically gifted and runs the floor, he's going to have to divide the 5-man minutes with Tyreek Jones. So those grad transfers, if they don't chip in, if they're freaked by this, then Xavier's in deep trouble. Anyway, I think Xavier's advanced and improved a lot. There's been some adversity. The injury to Quentin Gooden, the dislocated shoulder. Najee Marshall was sick for a number of days. He's just getting back to full function. Recently, Elias Harden, he missed the last game with Oakland, and now apparently Quentin Gooden is battling the flu or some sort of bug. So there's always adversity. But the challenging I don't think Xavier's going to be awed by the type of game or the intensity because they played well against a Bruce Pearl Auburn team that presses. They played well against Illinois and beat them, and Brad Underwood is a junkyard dog type coach. He plays 3/4 court press and very physical. So I think this team is going to not be a deer in the headlights over here. It's not going to be like 2 years ago where they got punked on the boards and they got outscored in the paint. 7 2-pointers there were 7 for 28 from 2-point range, which, that's not going to fly.
So do you have any concerns that this is Xavier's first true road test? First time they've actually been on a true road game away from Cintas?
I think that's a consideration, but the Maui Civic Center was a wild gym, and they played 3 games in 3 days over there against Auburn. San Diego State, everybody's dissing them. They're 43 in the new NET, the NCAA evaluation tool, so maybe they're the second best team in the Mountain West. And Illinois, although their record is somewhat pukey right now, they almost went up to Notre Dame. They gave Gonzaga a great game in Maui, and Xavier beat them by 11, and it should have been a 15, 18-point game. So, no, I think if Xavier can survive the opening wave of emotion here and realize that UC is going to block shots, they're going to contest shots, they're going to be animals on the boards at both ends. If they can handle that, then I think, they have a chance of winning this game in a very, very close one.
Okay. All right. And Terry, opening night loss in the new arena to Ohio State. How have the Bearcats improved and matured here early on in the season?
First thing the Bearcats did to improve was to settle their lineups. The opening night, you have Kane Broom in the lineup, and that's a smaller lineup with Kane Broom and Justin Jennifer. Both of them, 6 feet, 6'1", and then you've got a 5'10". So it doesn't bode well for your rebounding. So you insert Keith Williams, more athletic, 6'5", jumps out of the gym. He's muscular. He's a multi-position defender. You put him. He's a perfect complement to Justin Jennifer and Cumberland because he doesn't require the ball to score. He's a great offensive rebounder. He runs the lanes well. He gets them off steals and deflections. So he finds multiple ways to contribute, and he's not just a guy that needs out. Like if he doesn't get the ball, he's just standing around in the perimeter. If Cumberland's shooting, he's darting to the basket trying to get the offensive rebound because he's built that way. So when you look at that, you look at the the interior play of Trayvon Scott and Nasir Brooks, and not to mention Ellie Sosemi off the bench. So you look at their play, and they have really stepped up to the point where they know a rotation pattern that's going on right now. So when you look at the beginning of the year where they, the first game really shows you what you are and what you need to work on. Then they went back to the drawing board, and over the course of 8 games, they've gotten better and better and better. So when you look at this Bearcats team, you say, you know what? Yes, the first game was a tough loss, but Ohio State's pretty good. They're 16th in the country right now. And not to mention that, this Bearcats team has been it revealed to them that, yes, the pieces are here. Yes, the defense has always been here. Yes, the coach has been here. But do they believe that they can be as good as the last 2 years without Gary Clark, Kyle Washington, and Jacob Evans? And they're starting to believe that.
All right, and Andy, UC defensively, we know what they can do. Do we feel confident about Xavier being able to execute in the half court against these Bearcats?
Well, I'd like to see the game move up and down the floor with some alacrity, if you will. I think Xavier has the potential to be a really good fast break transition team, and they could be ground down in the half court. UC has a lot of shot blockers. Brooks has improved immeasurably. Trayvon Scott really impressed me. You and I were here for the NKU game, and 22 points, 10 rebounds, 3 block shots. I mean, he has, as a redshirt junior, he has found his mojo. And Keith Williams, I mean, he broke all sorts of records in scoring in New York State, I guess. I mean, he is a player now. He is a factor. The minutes are available, and he's sort of grabbed it by the throat. So, they've got a number of options, and Xavier, again, just has to accept the fact they're going to block some shots. There's going to be some contact inside. They can't shy away from it like they did 2 years ago here when Rashid Gaston had a horrible ball game. Sean O'Mara didn't show up, one of the few times I saw him not show up in 4 years. But there was a silver lining in that game 2 years ago that UC won. It probably would have been a 20-pointer if Trayvon Blewett hadn't gone off for an amazing 40-point game and JP hadn't played well. But in that game, Quentin Gooden emerged because Edmund Sumner had the shoulder problem. He got in foul trouble. Quentin Gooden got big minutes. He had to take over the next game because Edmund went out for the season. I mean, it was a great baptismal for Q. And also Tyreek Jones. He fouled out, but he battled inside against a bunch of UC guys. Now he's got Hankins to be his caddy there in splitting the 5 minutes. If Xavier had one more viable big guy, I'd feel really good about this. But at the moment, they don't. It's Hankins and Tyreek, 2 really good players against the world, and UC has more depth there.
And foul trouble for both teams has been a little bit of a challenge early. Terry, who needs to stay in the game for UC if they're going to be able to take this one against Xavier?
Well, Nasir Brooks has got to stay out of foul trouble. He's having a hard time staying out of foul trouble because of his technique as far as coming over back when it comes to getting an offensive rebound. If he shoots a jump hook short and the guy turns rebound, he'll jump up and try to grab the rebound. That's wrong. Him getting outside of the circle to try to wall up and be a better defender. He had 2 fouls yesterday against NKU where he was in position to make a play, stood straight up, but he's trying to, at the top of it, hit with his hand, and he hit somebody on the wrist, and he got a couple cheap fouls that way. You're going to get 2 fouls from playing hard, so you have to have better technique to preserve yourself. Also, Trey Scott's got to stay out of foul trouble because he does so much. Yes, the game was great that he had against NKU, 22 points, 10 boards, dominated, just the entire game. He was the best player on the floor. But his value defensively, he can guard 1 through 5. He can switch off the floor. He's a 42-inch vertical jump. You saw some highlight play, block shots, and dunks throughout this year. But he also has to stay out of foul trouble. And lastly, a guy that's got to stay out of foul trouble and got to play better is Jaron Cumberland. Jaron Cumberland's been so up and down scoring-wise. Yesterday, he did a great job getting his teammates involved with 5 assists and making sure that guys who run the floor with him, because he's going to absorb a lot of double teams, a lot of action. So he's finding guys. But he's got to play with a mental attitude that when he's in attack mode, the team is better. Because when he's in attack mode, he brings so much attention to him. He's naturally a good passer. But if he's just floating around like he was out in UNLV, then it's going to be a long day for the Bearcats. But we've proven that we can win without Jaron having big games because we've had 6 different players lead this team in scoring.
All right, and this game a lot of times comes down to playmakers, Andy. We remember the D. Davis game a few years ago. Who's the guy from Xavier that you see stepping up, coming into this game, and making plays down the stretch?
I'd say Xavier to win the game has to get a near 100% performance from Najee Marshall. I'm not quite sure who he's going to guard defensively. I would guess that Travis would start Paul Scruggs on Cumberland. Cumberland is capable of dropping 30. He scored 15 and 15 in his first 2 shootouts as a freshman and a sophomore. When he is going downhill, he's like a Rumpke truck without brakes going down Straight Street in Clifton. He's a scary guy. He's a scary.
I've been down that street.
He sets the. I mean, I agree. I don't know if there's something wrong with him physically, but and he played well last night. But he wasn't the dominating. He didn't need to be against NKU. I think he sort of needs to be that really. Aggressive leading force against a team like Xavier, like UCLA, like Mississippi State, some of the teams coming up on UC's schedule. I got a feeling the light will go on with that guy because he's a warrior. And J.P. McCura tried to take a few charges against him, and he got run over. I mean, just boom. Yeah. There was no wiggle there. And I think that sets the tempo for UC. But Najee Marshall, he drives the ball well. He has to sort of disdain that 3-point shot, and he may well guard Trayvon Scott. He could, and he's locked up a lot of good players in the Big East. But Scott's a little taller. Najee needs to play, stay out of foul trouble, play 35, 36 minutes, drop maybe 16, 18, and get to the boards and play good defense. Okay. He's a key guy.
And kind of play off of Cumberland just a little bit more. Terry, what do you make for him being up and down offensively and scoring? And at times when you watch, sometimes he seems extremely engaged, and he's a guy that can score in bunches. And I know for a fact that Coach Steele and his staff are nervous about Jaron Cumberland going on that 15-0 run by himself. But what do you make of his play so far and his offensive ability right now of kind of going up and down like you were saying? I
think his ability to read defenses more quickly. I equate it to a quarterback coming to the line of scrimmage, and he's seeing a front, and all of a sudden he's getting to it in his cadence, and then all of a sudden the defense starts approaching the line of scrimmage. And he's trying to read, are they blitzing, or are they going to do a dummy blitz? Do I need to get out of this play? And so when you see Cumberland, he's dribbling the basketball, and then all of a sudden he'll see a guy leak off of his man like they're going to double team him. He'll back the ball up, try to pull the double team out. And then by that time, he's, trying to come off that high post screen, but he's got to read the defense faster. He's got to know if I see a guy at the high post, I'm trying to throw that ball to Nasir Brooks. If I see him leaning, or if I see when I catch that ball, if this guy's going to come off, I know if I come off of the screen where my shots are going to be. So he's got to see the game, and that comes from film study. He's got to see the game 2 passes ahead. All the great ones do. And if he can do that, then he'll have a better chance of becoming what everybody sees him and believes him to be. Not just a dynamic scorer, but a playmaker who's capable of having big games, both offensively and with his passing game.
Well, and with both teams, you have guys who are in supporting roles really over the last few years, and now they're in more leadership roles, and they have to learn how to be closers. I'm really excited to see which player from what side is going to make those plays down the stretch, and especially on the offensive end for their team. And I want to open this up to you guys. You guys can go wherever you want to go with it, but this game for a lot of people brings up a lot of memories, whether it's a call or a game. Is there any memory in your mind that really sticks out, something that you think about as this game approaches year by year?
Well, there are two games that were played in this building in its previous iteration when it was just the Shoemaker Center. There was the Lenny Brown game when UC was number 1 in the country and Xavier knocked them down to number 2 in the city. Lenny made that little floater right below the free throw line, and I luckily came up with that line, and it sort of lived with me forever, so big deal. But that was a great game. And the D. Davis game, I thought D always got, because he was a little guy, he always got the short end as far as being underestimated, underappreciated. He had a really solid 4-year career. That game he played here in 2015 was almost flawless. 5 for 5 from three-point range. I think he had 8 assists, no turnovers, led the way. Xavier came from behind twice in the final minute. Trayvon Blewett hit those 2 free throws to put Xavier ahead, and that was a game they probably shouldn't have won. And those are the 2 games that come to mind for me. And the first game when Huggs was here in 89-90 over at the Gardens, when Jamal Walker hit the 3, it was 90-89, I think, the final score. And I saw at that point how driven Huggs was. He's a basketball game-winning machine. I knew the rivalry was going to do nothing but get better with Huggins against Gillen, and there were 9 years there where I think Pete was 4-5 against UC. And then Huggs had those great runs. The 92 team that Terry talks about went to the Final Four. There was an Elite 8 team in there. Those were the Huggins teams where the guys were totally bought in. I mean, they initiated the offense by taking that first shot, then boom, to the boards, everybody, boom, boom, boom. And I think that's where Mick is headed with this group. I mean, they can play that way.
I think the key to the game is not so much history or not so much, who's going to play the best. I think the key is going to be who can manage their emotions. It's always the case in the Crosstown Shootout. You're always going to have a star that emerges that you didn't think he was going to be the star. Whether it be a first-year player like a Hawkins way back in the day when I played, or whether it be somebody like, I think Kane Broom's going to have that kind of game where his mid-range is just so sweet, and it's at home. The fans are going to be just boisterous and going all over the place because they're going to try to pay back for what happened last year in Centos. Obviously, somebody threw something on the floor last year and tried to hit Coach. But I don't think we're going to throw anything on the floor, but I think the emotion of the game. Like, this team plays with passion, but they don't get too high and they don't get too low, and they try to stay focused. And when they stay focused, they can sustain runs longer. To the team that, is always jumping up and down and got to celebrate every three-pointer and they get a dunk, they got to look in the crowd and all that, you lose focus. And so you come down, get a dunk, you're pointing in the crowd, they come down, hit a 3. Now they upped you by 1 point, but everybody remembers the dunk. Well, in real life, if you can just stay focused and during timeouts, yes, you can chest bump, but you'll see during timeouts when UC makes runs, they're sitting over there, they're gathering each other, and they're talking about assignments. They're that locked in defensively, and they're on the seek and destroy mission. I just believe that the team that manages their emotions will win this game.
All right, and we're going to end it with prediction. So, Andy, why don't you give your prediction for the game on Saturday?
Well, for the 35th year in a row, I'll pick the Xavier Musketeers. And I'm over 500 in those 35 years by a considerable amount, so why would I change? I have Xavier 71. They need to up-tempo it, get UC maybe out of their defense a little bit. Xavier 71, UC 68 would be my pick. Certainly Xavier has the road game thing hanging over their heads. Hopefully Quentin Gooden will be healthy and be able to play his game. Najee Marshall, those guys. 2 years ago, there was a cloud hanging over the Xavier team when they came in and got punked on the boards. There was the Miles Davis blow-up. There was Edmund Sumner had the labrum tear in his shoulder. Things weren't going well. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. This Xavier team, if Paul Scruggs and Najee Marshall and Q and that group play the way they can, I think it's going to be very competitive. It's going to be a very close game. And I'll go with Xavier 71, UC 68.
Close, very close. I think this game is going to be played with passion, played with emotion, both well-coached teams, a lot of elite athletes. Xavier, 5 players in double figures. Cincinnati, 4 players in double figures, but they got 3 players that's capable of giving you 20 per night, and that's, with Keith Williams being the 4th player that can get you, high in the teens. I believe that Cincinnati will win this game 78-70 with Xavier hitting some free throws or some 3-pointers to try to get back in it late. But I think Cincinnati controls the tempo, especially about the 15 minutes of the second half when things really start to separate. There's going to be some foul trouble on both sides, but Cincinnati will get the bell of the whistle because they're going to be at home. So some of the key players for Xavier that you're counting on will be in foul trouble, and that will lead to some of the separation that you'll see at the end. It'll be closer than what people think, but the separation will dictate that. It would seem, if people are reading the paper, they say, okay, Cincinnati controlled the entire game.
All right, what I'm hearing from you guys is 2 pretty evenly matched teams. I mean, it should be a great game on Saturday, and I know that our listeners are probably shocked that Andy Mack picked Xavier and that Terry Nelson picked UC. But I will be in attendance. Andy, will you be in attendance for the game?
Well,
are you still figuring it out?
I'm still negotiating a press pass. I haven't been told if I'm going to be allowed in on a
after 35 in a row. Yeah. You may not get a press pass, man.
I don't know if I'm, and I'm begging for free no. I've got a TV.
All right. Well, either way, we're all going to be watching it somewhere, whether in the arena or at a bar or at the house or wherever you are. And I know I mentioned it earlier when we started the interviews, but if you haven't already followed the podcast, please do so. It's under BeDFRNT, the Be Different Podcast. Subscribe on YouTube and all of social media. We are going to bring content all throughout the college basketball season and beyond, and that content is coming weekly. So please, just if you can do that, that would be big for all of us. And Andy,
Can I get in one plug? I mean, I'm having a lot of fun with Twitter these days.
Yeah.
It's MM_Andy Mack.
Okay.
At MM_Andy Mack. We're having fun with it. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to get Terry's name on there on my Twitter.
TNL33, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.
I'll never forget the prediction he made in 1990. He was dead on. That was a dark day for Andy Mack, but there have been brighter days ahead. We've got 2 great programs in the city, so as long as we don't repeat that Nashville nightmare of last year.
Andy, we know you have your UC shirt on underneath that Xavier shirt. I got it, man.
Thank you.
I got it.
All right, that is a Crosstown Shootout special with the Be Different Podcast. We'll see you guys.